Welcome to this edition of 24/7 Modern Mom. Today, I am Peggy Harper Lee. I should start with who I am. I'm a contributor to 24/7 Modern Mom, and today I have with me Barb Goldberg. Barb is the author, blogger, and coach for the Evil Stepmother Speaks. I think we're going to get a little bit of reaction on that title. That's excellent. The mission of the Evil Stepmother Speaks is to save the world one stepfamily at a time. Barb teaches stepfamilies how to love, laugh, and blend. So Barb, you are a mom, a stepmom, you know kids and families. You're a businesswoman, columnist, certified life coach. So you know about relationships and how critical communication is within any environment. You host the Stepmom Toolbox Show on Blog Talk Radio and write the award-winning blog, The Evil Stepmother Speaks. As an expert on all matters regarding stepfamily, you've been featured on a variety of media outlets, including Martha Stewart Radio and the Huffington Post. So welcome, Barb.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it, Peggy. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, this topic couldn't be more rife for conflict, so we're going to be real and honest and raw here and have a little bit of fun. How does that sound?
That's perfect. We always do it that way.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Did you know what you were getting into when you married a man with 3 children?
No, I think that's one of the things that, I don't want to say all stepmothers, but most of us have in common. Absolutely not. We all go into it with a very it's really quite lovely, naive, loving, like everything's going to be great. We're the exception to that evil stepmother icon that's out there. We all think that. And, I think it's like, I used to think, gosh, a lot of us say, how stupid could we have been? On the other hand, it reminds me a lot of when you have biological children, right? If a lot of us, if we knew what we were getting into at the beginning, don't most moms say, if I knew what I was getting into, I wouldn't have done it. If I knew I wasn't going to sleep for 50 years, I wouldn't have done it. So it's kind of like that. We go in thinking that we're the exception to the rule. We usually, love our stepchildren, clearly our partners very much, and that everyone's gonna love us back. That's usually what we're thinking.
Right. Oh, when is the first clue you had that you were wrong?
I don't want to say the specific incident, but I would say I can actually. No one's ever asked me that, and I actually remember it. I would say the first week in, and we had, people usually want to know. I mean, we had dated for like a year and a half, 2 years. It wasn't, like a big impulsive thing or anything. But the first time I saw something along the parenting lines that I didn't like, and when you think about parenting, we all have our theories, we all have our viewpoints on how it should be done. And I think the first time, and it was like nothing, that I saw something that I didn't really like, was like, oh, wait a minute, here come my opinions. The opinions no one really wants.
And you got that message pretty quickly, huh?
Yeah, no, I mean, usually it depends on what kind of person you are. I mean, I really never openly, gave parenting advice, but I will say a lot of my partners in crime do, like right out there, start jumping in and getting involved, which, by the way, is a mistake. But I would do some of it behind the scenes and complain and, that kind of thing. So I think that's a classic behavior that most of us have. You just start,
right.
We think we know better, like every mom thinks they know better.
Excellent. So were you welcomed with open arms, obviously, by your husband, but how about his children? And you have a child as well.
Yes, I brought a son to the picture. So when I became, formally, let's just say, a stepmother, I had 3 stepchildren, 15, 13, and 10, and then I brought a 6-year-old. And so 2 boys and 2 girls. And, I've always felt like I was, welcomed. I really, really did, very much. But, as much as you can welcome someone, there's still, things that, are just going to come up. I mean, if you kind of step back and think about it, just asking your children to live with somebody, it's one thing to like somebody, you see them around. I mean, I certainly knew the children, et cetera, et cetera. My husband was very respectful with them. And I just realized, like 2 years ago, we've been married over 20 years, that he asked their permission to ask me to marry me, which of course he did, but I never thought of it. And so they were all in on it before I was. But, you know, living with someone's a different thing. Living with another kid's a different thing. You know, as I write in my book, you know, who wants to see someone else in their pajamas? Who wants to see somebody else in the bathroom? You know, and I always say, everybody knew before it was over, you're going to see me naked. Nobody wants to see that. And it's creepy. It's creepy. You know?
Yeah, you can't anticipate all that, can you?
I mean, it's
so the thing that,
yeah, go ahead. No, I was going to say,
so the
like
question
that.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, when you think of it in those terms, it's one thing to like someone, and maybe we'll take a step and say they love me. I don't want to speak for them. But it's a whole other thing, and we do it so easily, ask our children, to live with people because, you know, our partner or spouse, you know, loves them. That's a big adjustment. And if you're like we were, and I'm bringing another child into the fold, that's a big adjustment. It really is.
Yeah. And so here you go. The question I think a lot of the 24/7 Modern Mom readers are going to want to know is, what is your relationship like with your stepkid's mother?
Oh, of course. It's the first question all the time. I have a good relationship with her. I mean, I'm not going to lie and say that, like, we are, like, I wouldn't consider us, like, the best friends on the planetary system, you know? Like, we're not the relationship where we're really calling each other. But what's happened over the years, and again, it's been over 20 years now for me, and I find now, kids grown, now we're getting into grandchildren, for example, to show us where I'm at a little bit in the timing, is that, you know, we are a good team when we're together. You know what I mean? We're not together that much, because clearly what happens is you start having grandchildren, you start seeing each other more again because they have their things and we're both there.
Right.
And I consider us a good working team. I notice that when we're together, we work well together. And we're, you know, I can feel that we've been through it all now together, and there's something very bonding about that. I have a lot of respect for her because one of the things that happens, that for those of anyone that's in this situation and you're not sort of at the back end where I am right now, is that you start to realize that the kids turned out, they're fantastic, and that's really what you're up, you know, what you're really gearing for to begin with. And guess what? Whatever I thought should have been done differently, or I'm sure with me that I should have been doing differently, guess what? They all turned out. We all did a good job. And you start learning, you know what? We were all right. And, you know, she did a great job and I did a great job.
That's an interesting thought. Everybody's right. That's great. Yeah.
Everybody's right.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I'm getting used to the delay. I apologize. So what is it, you talk about the evil stepmother fairy tale being alive and well. What do you mean by that?
Well, I really feel strongly about this, and it's actually the subject of, when my blog goes up on 24/7 Modern Moms, I'm going to write a little bit more about this. But I truly, truly believe with all the technological advances, sociological advances, whatever our society has done, that fairy tale is still living as if it happened yesterday. And I think the first time it ever appeared was so back in the beginning of time, like the first century, who knows what. And the reason, I always thought that's so weird, because that's why people react when they hear, oh, it's a stepmom, and your first reaction is maybe to pull back, divert your eyes. You know, we're all used to that. And all the thoughts that go along with it, oh, she must have been the mistress, oh my God, she must hate those kids, I feel sorry for the kids, you know, it goes on and on. And that's because, you know, it really gets back to neuroscience. And I learned that our brain understands the world in terms of storyline. That is literally how we survive on the planet. You know, the brain takes in information and formats it all in a story. So that's how we communicate through the ages. It's how we literally, if you think about seeing hieroglyphics on a cave wall, if you're ever at an ancient site, we communicate with each other through the storyline. So it's a very comfortable way. We feel very safe when things are in storylines. And the other thing is that when the brain takes in information and uses its imagination, it has no capacity to know the difference what's real and what's imagined. It's just taking in the data. Now think about that for a minute. It doesn't know the difference. And think how many times you've seen that storyline from movies, TVs, storybooks from the, it's probably one of the first storylines you can recall hearing. And it's repeated one way or another, different formats over and over and over. And the brain is this thinking, hey, my job here is to take in information and keep you safe. So they hear that word stepmother, they hear, boom, all the images come up and anxiety kicks in and all those things kick in, and there's no barrier in your brain to say, that's not true. And in fact, it's quite comfortable, and that's why we love to gossip about it too. We know we all do that. Oh, look at her.
Yeah, well, and I remember Cinderella all the way from that to Stepmonster, right?
Oh yeah, and I mean, every single time, what's that movie with Drew Barrymore is that the Ever After one where it's really Cinderella? I'll be the first to step up and say, I watch it every single time. It's on HBO. I love it. I mean, it's a very comforting, there's something familiar, so safe and consistent about watching those movies. That's why they replay the storyline, because they know that people love to watch it.
Yeah, so how do you combat that?
Well, I mean, you can't, in some ways you really can't. And one of the ways that I thought was, someday I'm going to start a blog. And someday when I leave my, quote, real job, I'm going to do something about it. And I'm going to get the message out there that, you know what, that's not the truth. And write books and teach classes for stepmoms that are struggling through the whole remarriage saga, and that's another tale, and who's really fighting all of this. So I'm really doing it through my practice. And
one family at a time, right?
One family at a time, and talking to different sites, and so that moms that may or may not be in a stepfamily situation start to see it maybe in a little bit of a different light and see us in a different light.
So if there are any stepmoms tuning in or reading your words, what are the 3 main tips that you would offer to them?
Well, first of all, I always say sense of humor necessary. Sense of humor, I mean, if you don't have a sense of humor, I mean, I don't want to get into your private business, but you know what, just don't do it. Because if you were able to step back and really think about some of the things that maybe are said about us or the way we're treated, it really is funny. I mean, it really is funny. Like I often, I look at myself and I'm like this normal looking, average, all of us, average looking person or whatever. I'm really the mistress that some guy's going to leave his wife for, and that's what people always think. It wasn't the case, but you see me walking down the street and it goes, oh look, she's even got another kid. Whoa, that's hot. I mean, that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. But the thought always, I'm sure people always wonder, I wonder if it broke the marriage up, So, I mean, there's a million other things that make things that are funny about it. And the other thing is that we really take things so seriously. And, when the kids come and it's your turn, just have fun with them. You don't have to have any deep conversations about their, reason for living or what's going on with their parents' divorce. Just have fun with them and make them laugh. And so sense of humor necessary. The second, I always say your best friend is silence. If you've been around long enough, you'll learn that none of us really know what is the best thing to do in life anyway. So, and really it's complicated enough as it is. Let the 2 biological parents take on the heavy lifting. You don't need to give your opinion. No one wants it. That's the truth of it. And, just let it go. And just enjoy, make some brownies, And then, and actually the third tip actually is kind of a simple thing. It goes along I call it being sort of home base. And that is that it sounds ridiculous and so simple, but that is make your home like a really welcoming place. And when the kids have to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, it's simple little things that we all love. They're coming. I know people work. I'm not making you like Martha Stewart or something, but, bake some cookies or always have like food that kind of sticks to your ribs. Those are the kinds of things you cook, or, just leave it as an open place where they're just joyously welcome. Where I think, I'm blanking, but there's a famous saying that when the kids walk in, have your eyes light up. that kind of thing. Just a
Yeah.
welcoming place. Make your home home base, no matter how often you have them. Those are 3 tips that'll work.
Excellent. And I want to ask you a quick question on tip number 2 about the silence. You're not talking about being silent just in front of the kids. You're talking about don't go in the bedroom and talk to your husband.
No, because that's
either, right?
Yeah, I think that's one of the big enemies of our 75% remarriage with anyone with children divorce rate. Very high. And as many people would say, would you really get into something where you only had a 25% chance of winning? Oh yeah, there's tons of us that would. So, oh yeah.
Guilty as charged.
Yeah, we'll do that. And so, if you can, I know how hard this is, and that is, if you very much, you're just compelled to say something, say it once and let it go, and you know what you do? You get help. And it doesn't have to be expensive help. The greatest gift you can give each other and to try to get away from divorce is getting outside help. It could be a dear friend you trust, it could be a clergy member, it could be a psychologist, and I hate, people hate that term, life coach, or, whatever. Get yourself support. You don't have to do this alone. It's not written anywhere you have to do it alone, but get yourself some help.
Well, in some ways, you're saying that the bio parent needs to play bad cop and the step parent needs to play good cop. That can be a lot of fun. That can be kind of freeing too, right?
Very freeing, but I think you often see the opposite scenario. Sometimes, you marry and the dad, remember you're marrying into a divorce. So divorced folks, and I've been divorced, so I'm counting myself, feel very guilty about their children. And certainly in a divorce, when kids are going back and forth, the biological parents are living with one fear in their head, and that is the kids aren't going to love me anymore. They're going to love the other parent more, and they're not going to want to live with me / come see me. And that drives all decision making. And when that's the first thing in your head and that anxiety is driving you, all you'll see is a lack of discipline, maybe giving them the kids things. We talked a little bit earlier offline about entitled children. And it's not the children, it's the parents who are just so worried that they're going to leave them, which they're not, that it drives a lot of that. So what happens is the step parent becomes the bad guy. They're the ones going, do the dishes, clean up your rooms, because, dad doesn't want to do it. So don't let yourself fall into that. You got to.
So that's where the silence comes in, right?
It does come in, and also the silence is that you got to do all you can without becoming a major nag to tell, to explain to your spouse that parenting still has to be number one. You're not there to be the kids' friends. And, do everything you can to get the biological parents to execute the policies that they, and the chores that they want the kids to do. It's hard not to fall into that trap. You got to get out of it.
Yeah, or the dishes will pile up, right? The laundry, whatever. You talk. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, the big thing is the dirty rooms. Shut the door. That's what I did. I don't want to see it.
I do that with my bio kids.
Exactly right. Just shut the door. They're going back and forth. I'm going to leave them alone. Just shut the door.
Yeah, good. Your book, The Evil Stepmother Speaks, a guide for step families who want to love and laugh, looks at the step family from a 360-degree. So we've talked a little bit about the differences in the step parents' point of view, but what does everybody have in common? Well,
the biggest thing that everyone has in common, and I can't give away the whole book, is that,
okay.
Is really...
I won't.
That's right. Well, when you really, really look at it, the first thing that everyone has in common, and that's, mom, dad, any step parents, is they really operate from a place of fear. And when you actually take a look at the things that we're afraid of, they are shockingly the same. I'll give you some of the lists. Ones we've talked about. The kids won't love me. The kids will love other people more. We'll have no money. That's a big one. Think about it. There's usually child support / alimony, something going on there. And what's one of the core thoughts? Oh, here comes the new wife. She wants all the money. By the way, we never have any. We're all going to be broke. All of us will be living in a van down by the river. They'll have, other children, or there's a child being brought in to the picture. Again, the kids and everything, they're going to love that child more. They're going to love the new wife more. Everyone's afraid of the lack of love, and then with that comes the division of time and money. So when you start to list all those things, every single person's thinking the same thing, but we never ever say it. But that's really the gist of it. And so I do want to tell everyone that, like, my book is really the ultimate, I call it the ultimate answer to the fairy tale. It's the fairy tale rewritten, but finally the stepmother is on the journey. We go down the yellow brick road and we're having fun meeting all the fun characters along the way. And it's just another way of looking at it. It's a really quick read.
Awesome, awesome. What are your tips for getting along with your stepchildren? We've talked about some of it, but do you have anything to add on that?
You know, I think a lot of it is being able to step back, and this is why people say being a stepmother is, quote, so hard. It's not, quote, so hard because we're cleaning up or doing physical things. I mean, there's some of that, but that's what every mom does. It's because it forces us first to learn how to love unconditionally. It really, everyone talks about that, but really having to love someone unconditionally, even if, you know, they're coming over and they're most likely out of sorts and not their best. If you have teenagers, that speaks for itself. Really learning how to do that. And also learning how to love from a distance. There's many philosophical and spiritual, if you will, treatise that talks a lot about this. It's about, you know, I don't care, I love you anyway, but I love you, excuse me, but I don't care what you do, which sounds a little cold, but it's really loving with some detachment, which is like the ideal form of love. It's really a lesson in love. It's just a really tough lesson. And if you can learn that, and if you have stepchildren, it's fantastic. You're almost forced into it. And then you can apply it to the other members of your family. It's a huge win. Huge, huge win. Don't get so caught up in the things they're saying, or, you know, remember where they're coming from. They're pretty disruptive. And it doesn't matter if they're little or they're an adult, they're disrupted.
By the divorce.
Very much so. You know, it's really another way of putting this is you become a compassionate watcher. And that's a philosophy often written about in the Buddhist tradition, but it's really being able to step back and having fantastic compassion, not only for your stepchildren, but for their mom. I mean, think about it. Would you like to be a mom and your kids are, let's just say, every other weekend leaving you? It sounds like it's a great thing, but believe me, as a mom, you don't think so. And go into a home where there's some woman that most likely you don't know, I wouldn't be happy at all. So, yeah, it's compassion.
Excellent. Yeah. Stepmoms can get really frustrated with chores, and you talked a little bit about discipline. I mean, it almost, if somebody's listening to this, they could be maybe drawing the mental conclusion that you're saying to be their best friend. That's not at all what you're saying, but could you clarify that?
Yeah, absolutely. Not at all what I'm saying. You know, I always call it, it's like you're an entity between being, I would say, a parent and a friend. It's like you hope one day maybe to be a trusted advisor, and that may or may not happen. And by the way, it doesn't happen like the first week that you move in. You know, that's the other thing, you know, especially nowadays, we want everything right now. I think statistically it says that, you know, step families take 7 years to blend. So keep that in mind as well. And while these 7 years are going on, by the way, people are growing up and they're doing normal developing things. So when you have a teenager and the room looks like, I mean, God only knows, it's not because of a divorce. It's because they're slobs. And so, and they're teenagers and they're supposed to be slobs, you know, and other developmental things. So you have to, first of all, get the right perspective about what's really going on. And the other thing is you have to let go a bit yourself, you know, and really take a hard look. If you know that what's going on in the other house is, like, let's say, a very laissez-faire, perhaps, household, and then you really want, you know, strict chores, everything to be perfect, you know, that's just not going to work. And remember that those kids are going back and forth. How, you know, really seriously, how can you expect their room to be perfect when they're living out of a suitcase? You know, how can you expect them not to forget things when they're going back and forth? I couldn't do it. So you kind of have to, you know, sway like on, and what I did was I picked one chore and I just said to my husband, I don't care. This one thing I want done. For me, it was dishes. You know, I had this whole thing in my head, like there's 4 kids sitting around the table. I just made dinner. I don't think so. And so we executed. It was ugly at first because they weren't exactly used to it. But you know what now? They're adults. They get up and they all do the dishes. You get over it. It's no different than anything. But I only pick the one thing, and then you may have to let some things go. It's just the truth of it.
That sounds great, and honestly, I think it would take a lot of pressure off of a lot of step parents if they could take that approach. How did that impact your parenting with your biological son?
This is really interesting. I never saw an issue with that. And to me, it made such logical sense. It's like having two teams that are managing two sets of athletes, if you will. There's mom and dad were managing the three, and Bruce and I were managing, Ian, the little one. And just for this record, so you have some of the dirt, is that when I got divorced and when I remarried Bruce, he adopted Ian. So I didn't have the ex-husband to go back and forth. Yes, I'm the lucky one. He disappeared. It's true. And so to me, that was never a conflict. I certainly would respect anything my husband and the kid's mom decide to do. I supported it, and I don't break those policies. Whatever they decided, I execute them. That's it. Don't come to me, which they'll try. I'm not going to change it. Go to your mom and dad. And by the way, every stepmother should memorize that. Go to your mom and dad. Yeah, they're not trying. I mean, they'll try it, but because they know you're desperate for them to like or love them, so they'll figure, oh, she's an easy mark. Nah, And
yeah, divide and conquer gets a little bit easier because there is some of that distance and there is some of that maybe strain or tension or lack of familiarity. That's a good point.
Yeah, and Ian follows whatever, and mainly in our case, it's been pretty consistent. And you know what? If you were to ask the kids, their stories would be completely different. I'm sure the other three, I don't want to speak for them, but I could just hear them saying, oh, he never had to do anything. He's so spoiled. And, everybody would be pointing fingers at everybody else. It's no different than any other household. I'm here to tell you it wasn't that different.
There's a next book, right?
Yeah, I think yeah. You know what? And let me just say, they all have something to say. I am positive of that. But that's no different than any family. This one got.
Yeah, absolutely. That would be a great read too. The kids of the Evil Stepmother Speak, right?
I wrote a chapter on that, so you have to read it.
Nice. I can't wait. My copy is on its way. So I did some research, but I have not had the pleasure of reading your book yet. I can't wait.
I know, and
so
I opinion too.
You did what?
I said I welcome your opinion as well.
Oh, excellent. We'll have fun sharing. So you said that readers of your book call it a love letter to stepmothers. So I'm sure there's probably some stepmoms or even stepdads out there that may be thinking, where can I get this information? So can you tell the listeners a little bit about where they might be able to get a hold of it?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, you can find the book on Amazon. And I would say probably a week or two from the airing, and whenever you hear this, I would still check on Amazon and see if the Kindle edition, the electronic edition, is ready. It's not ready quite yet, but really, really soon. And then, of course, you can always buy it on my website, theevilstepmotherspeaks.com. And I have on my website, if you buy it there, I'm also teaching the book along the way. So if you have any interest in joining class, I'm going to keep teaching the first 4 chapters several times over the year, and you can join class for free. And I also made this recording. It was a recording I always wished that I had. So, and it was for those times that I call it, wanted to jump off the ledge. When you're having those stepmom, stepdad moments that, what can I say? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Those moments that I literally made a recording so you could put it into your iPod and put it in it so you don't kill anyone. That's what we're trying to do. And it'll kind of talk you off the ledge in step-parent terms. So I'm going to send you that as well. So either way.
Excellent. And that's a free resource on your site?
Yeah, buy the book and I send you the recording. And if you want to join class for free, you just click on and pick a time that works for you.
Awesome. Well, fabulous resource. Barb, it has been a lot of fun speaking with you. We are a blended nation. Our families have gotten a lot more complicated, and parenting is one of the toughest jobs any of us will ever have. So really appreciate you here today. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I just looking forward to being a part of the 24/7 Modern Mom family. I love being a voice for the step parents on there, and can't wait to meet all the moms and start talking.
Perfect. We'll welcome you in. Excellent.
Thank you. Thanks so much.